This used to be the apple capital of the world. Now folks are often removing the old apples now to make way for grapes. The problem with removing these old trees is they offer so much habitat.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks so much for making it out on this hot day.
Yeah, what is it, like 92?
Probably something like that. This is part of a 80-acre, 100-year-old apple orchard. So a lot of these old Gravensteins, like this is a 116-year-old Gravenstein apple right here. This used to be the apple capital of the world, and mainly because of these rare, wonderful apples. When people get like apple-flavored candy, it's usually a Gravenstein apple flavor. The reason why these apples have kind of fallen by the wayside, they're kind of an endangered apple around here now, is because they don't store very well. The problem with removing these old trees is they create a haven of wildlife here. This whole site is really about how do we come into a oneness with nature.
You see that it looks like a pretty conventional house.
Yeah, right? Just a normal craftsman style house.
Yeah.
All right, but here's the really special stuff back here. The garden, you'll see that it has a wild flavor to it, and that's on purpose. So these are ground cherries. This is an herbal labyrinth. Persimmon trees. I mean, when you walk around here, you just can't help but just eat everywhere you go. We've got over 150 different fruit and nuts on 1 acre. Apple, pear, plum, fluot, apricot, persimmon, pomegranate, mulberry, many kinds of citrus. It's all here. So what could be produced on an acre is tremendous. These are D'Anjou pear. This is the Seckel pear, and then it's the Asian pear. We want to allow nature to express itself. What that means is it provides food, medicine, habitat, joy, water, flowers, fiber, fun. Also provides a lot of shelter for different wildlife, attracting lots of beneficial birds and insects. So there's a lot going on. It's a very dynamic place.
This was just a backyard.
Yeah, so when we moved in here about 12 years ago, we lived busy lives, raising children, raising a family, running a business. So for us, it's about how can you grow an enormous amount of food and have a highly productive system with the least amount of labor. We don't grow a ton of vegetables because we're just so busy and it's a lot of work. And so we want to have our food in a more perennial system. But of course, we do have our vegetable beds here, and we have this principle of layering. So we have our tomatoes that are being run up on string lines, and then below that we have lettuce, we have German chamomile, we have basil, we have kale. So they're all growing in a community setting where the tomatoes now are providing shade for the lettuce, for the kale. You can see that the basil is now on the south side, so it wants that sun. So even in a vegetable bed, we're growing 3 or 4 different crops all together in combination. They all support each other, and they're also laid out in such a way where we're looking at sun and shade and climate. Now, one of the things that we do here, we're a no-till garden. So that means that we don't ever turn the soil, we don't till it, we don't plow it. Sometimes when we're in transition, we'll do a chop and drop. So we'll take biomass from the garden and we'll chop it, and we'll literally use the biomass from the garden as mulch. Now we can come back, we can make spaces in here, and I can plant some other crop in between here while the ground is being cooled and the life in the soil is being fed by this biomass.
What is this?
This is dinosaur kale. This one does really well for this area, really one of the better kales that you can eat. Here in the understory, we've got a lot of green beans as well. So always we're planting in layers. We're planting multiple crops in a bed, especially in the summertime where there's a lot of sun for photosynthesis. And it really only takes a minute to grab a dinner's worth of food, of green beans, tomatoes, basil, kale, lettuce, and you're set as a base for your meal.
You're probably eating differently than you would have when you stopped at the supermarket, right? I mean, dino kale, I've never seen that at the supermarket.
No, exactly, exactly. Also included in our food systems are perennial vegetables. So this here is horseradish. You use the root in a variety of different ways. So you clean it off and you get down to this beautiful white root that is very spicy, also very medicinal. We'll harvest that and make a horseradish sauce. You shred it up, add some vinegar, some salt.
Would you use the leaves for anything?
Mulch. So again, we're trying to have as many closed loop systems here as possible. So these big leaves provide excellent mulch for the fig tree. It's always about keeping the soil covered to reduce evaporation and to feed the life in the soil. So everything here is about growing soil, growing seed, growing herbs, growing mulch. Everything is a harvest, everything. This is why it's so dense and there's so many layers. We have perennial berries like this Cape gooseberry, which is a perennial. So that means it goes year after year after year. So we're talking about permanent food production here. And then they produce these amazing golden berries, which are just delicious. These have 10 times the amount of vitamin C as an orange, these golden berries. So unlikely to find that in a supermarket. It's the kind of thing you want to get fresh. One of the other things that we do is we want to grow stuff by seed. Well, one of our activities here is to allow certain food producing trees to grow by seed. And this is a volunteer peach that we planted by seed. The beauty of this tree is that it's almost ripe. It's a late peach. So whereas most of all the peaches have already come and gone, this one is a little bit later. It's freestone, so that means that the fruit doesn't cling to the seed. So it makes it really easy for processing, for freezing it, for storage, and they're late. And so one of the ways that we grow 365 days a year of food, there's not a single day that you can't walk out here and harvest food, not a single day. And one of the ways that we achieve that is we ensure that we are growing different kinds of cultivars that harvest at different times of the year. So for instance, we already had 2 different peach harvests off of these peach trees over here that were earlier peaches. Now we're getting into this one. So that means we have peaches for 2 to 3 months because of the different cultivars. We're in zone 9 from a plant hardiness perspective. So this is coastal California. We're light on frost here. But if we were in a colder climate, we would build greenhouses and using animal and other means to heat up areas to achieve more food production. I mean, look at how much biodiversity is just in this little clip here. We have thyme, we have Tulsi basil, which is the holy basil. That's an adaptogen, stress relieving, medicinal. We've got zinnias for beauty and for habitat. You'll notice butterflies and bees all over these zinnias. Then we have a peach tree, and we have an Asian pear, and we have a plum, and they're all in a little 20-foot diameter area. So every little space can be packed in. And then we have this. This is one of our weeds that has transformed our seed bank, but this is evening primrose. You can take the seeds and it does have the qualities to lower blood pressure. So there's secrets hidden amongst the seeds, hidden amongst the plants. When these bloom, they're called evening primrose because the blossoms open when the sun goes down, right at sunset. A new set of blossoms will crack open, and then moths and bumblebees come and pollinate them. So this is a weed that just came on its own. So I wanted to take you here because, again, small space. This is a little farther from the house, so there's not as much intensity. Generally, we're going to be more intensive close to the house because we spend more time there. And then as we move farther from the house, there's a little bit less dense planting systems. But here we have the golden delicious apple. Here we have Asian pear, another one that is now happening. This is our first variety of Asian pear. Then we have another variety called Husui, which comes in about a month. So as I said about choosing cultivars that harvest at different times.
What I'm noticing is they are loaded. Is that something you can plan ahead or?
Do you attribute it to the soil that you're?
It's the entire system, the way this whole system works. They're also down here at the bottom and this whole property is terraced. So all the rain that falls will all get caught and infiltrated in the soil. And that infiltrated water now moves subsurface, and it usually will collect more at the bottom. So these are kind of at the bottom of a big water harvesting system. But also we use a method here called the stun method. This is a term coined by Mark Shepard of the Restoration Agriculture. So that stands for sheer, total, utter neglect. How can you grow an enormous amount of food and have a highly productive system with the least amount of labor? That is what we're trying to hack here. And one of the ways we do that is we use sheer, total, and utter neglect, which essentially is what these trees have experienced. Minimal pruning, minimal care, minimal anything. But the fact that they are here surviving and thriving means they're a good fit. We've had other trees that we plant, they die. They die off, okay, they're not a good fit, move on. So any tree that's here is one of the survivors. It's why we plant so close together. We initially plant close together knowing that some trees will get thinned out or die out. We plant a lot of biodiversity, and then we discover the things that require almost zero attention to be able to grow. And these Asian pears are sort of a testament to that, as well as all of these apples. There's just so much in here. There's these mulberries. We have at least 4 months of mulberries. So 1/4 of the year, we can come out and harvest mulberries. Not something you would find in the supermarket. Very high antioxidant. This is a Persian mulberry. The flavor is intense. It's delicious. These just get ravaged by the kids. This is another mulberry too. It's called T's Weeping Mulberry. This produces just little tiny flavor bombs. But for kids, it's wonderful because it creates this sort of hidden structure in here. These kind of living huts, if you will. Now we're into the upper microclimate.
It feels so good here.
It's typically a 10-degree difference just right here. So like back here, we have a lot of cooler season plants and also more human infrastructure. In the summer, we want a cool area. This is a project that's in process. It's a Bronze Age inspired sunken roundhouse. It's built almost exclusively with stone, but it will have a wooden roof and it will be an earthen roof. So once we build the wooden roof, we'll put a pond liner on there to protect the wood. We'll cover it in soil. And then it'll be like a little hobbit house. Essentially, you can go in. Multifunctional, this could be a root cellar because we're down here in the coolness of the earth. And the stone also has properties of thermal mass, so it will keep this very, very cool in here. But it's gonna be a multi-use space. We'll also put a wood stove in here, and it can be a sauna as well, or just a little kind of gathering space, or someone can camp out here. The point of this is getting into the earth where the cool temperatures are.
Yeah, I think it's even dropped a couple degrees from that.
Just from that to here, right? Yeah, exactly, really nice. Exactly. The cool air kind of pools up in here. And it is worth also pointing this willow coppice out here. Okay. This is a traditional way to grow basketry willow, to make baskets or to make willow structures. So we're gonna let these grow out probably for a couple years to get a little bit thicker, and then we can harvest them and use them to create willow domes or willow fences.
What I love is that you are just creating this Bronze Age inspired underground shelter dwelling, and then you look beyond your fence and it's typical, almost suburban environment. I mean, you can do stuff in your backyard.
Even in a small space, if you can delineate 2 or 3 spaces as outdoor room areas that have something interesting, maybe there's some food or flower or medicine or a sculpture, a water feature, that kind of interest where the children kind of get drawn into places, we found that to be really, really effective. So this is our water harvesting habitat swimming pond. We collect about 50,000 gallons of water off of the roof of the house. So water comes off of the roof and it goes into a set of tanks. There's 2 5,000-gallon tanks over there. That water overflows into the pond, and then those tanks are a backup water system. So 50,000 gallons of rainwater moves through here. We're high up in the landscape. So if we're in an emergency, fire, electricity goes out, big storm, we need the water. This pond is high up on the landscape, so we can siphon water out of this pond if we needed to. It was a lot of work.
So you dug it?
I built this whole thing by myself, about 99% of it. I had some friends help me lay the liner down. Otherwise, yeah.
How long did it take before you had a natural pond rather than just sort of a pit of dirt?
By the time we excavation to like a swimmable, plantable pond, that was probably 2 months, pretty fast. But it's taken a couple of years for it to really grow in nice. So yeah, the first couple of years definitely was, the plants are very small and didn't quite have that natural feel, but now that it's growing and it feels, oh boy, it just feels really natural, right? Like it's been here forever. This has brought so much joy to our lives. I swim in it every day.
Every day.
Every day I swim in this. It's 9 feet deep in the middle. And you'll notice that around the edges are all these reed plants. So there's actually a constructed wetland around this pond. So water gets pumped through the roots and gravel of the constructed wetland, which help clean the water, take nutrients out of the water, reduce algae, and then it comes back around to the waterfall. Ours is a solar powered waterfall, which also adds to the aeration. So it's part of the biofiltration system is this wetland. And then there's actually a wall, we call it the swim wall, that retains the wetland. And then it goes down deep, very deep from the swim wall. So it'll go down 9 feet deep in the middle. You could totally dive in, no problem. Really nice on a hot day like this.
And I see there's little fish in there.
And then it is stocked with mosquito fish. This pond does not produce any mosquitoes because of its fish, but we haven't stocked it with bigger types of fish because we want to maintain the water quality. If we had bigger fish in here, they would defecate in the water more and there'd be more nutrients load, which would lead to more algae and could become problematic. It's a water harvesting habitat pond. So we've seen fox here, bobcats here, so many birds, kingfisher, heron, ducks, and you can see all of the dragonflies cruising around, right? So dragonflies, of course, they just eat insects. Their whole life is about eating insects, eating mosquitoes, eating other gnats and things like that. So we have an actual entire pest management system that is born from this pond. Frogs, damselflies, dragonflies, they all thrive here and move around and help manage pests in the garden. This cattail is a traditional natural fiber. So you can make mats from it, you can make cordage from it, nets. Also, the top is a great tinder. So when we're doing hand friction fire, we'll use this as part of our fire making toolkit. Also, there's a pain relieving medicine, little gel that comes out of the stem of the cattail. And you can also eat the roots. So this really exemplifies a robust permaculture garden is a plant like cattail because we choose plants that have many, many uses. So I just named 5, 6, 7 uses off of this one plant. And that's how we choose a lot of our plant communities is how many uses does this have? It's going to take up this amount of space, but it's going to provide me with 3, 4, 5, 6 different yields. We also made this basket house this year. Always thinking about that anything that would be considered waste is really just an unused resource. And these branches are trimmings that we took to protect the redwoods from fire. They might be prunings from fruit trees. And instead of just burning them or chipping them up, we decided to make this little shade structure out of them.
How difficult was that? To bending or?
Bending with tension. Most of this is not tied together. It's almost all held by tension, but there are specific points where we did tie branches together to sort of train them into that space. And of course you do it when they're fresh. So you do it all green and then let it dry. And then little by little, we'll start weaving more big leafed plants in here to cast more and more shade. And then eventually we'll probably grow some gourds or something up over it. So very low tech, but very beautiful and effective. And it's really changed this space. And this is our little beach. We definitely built like a little beach to make it easy for the kids to get in the water and play in the water. So you have kind of this little shallow zone. This is my wife, Lauren, by the way.
I love your garden. Wow, it's more than a garden actually, right? I mean, it's a forest, supermarket, herbal medicine. Do you actually use a lot of it? Sleep aids and cold and cough medicine, do you come to the garden?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah. We do a lot of steams. That's a lot of in the winter with congestion with all different plants, and absolutely, yeah. Our kids were raised doing this. It's just normal to them.
Hey, Phoenix. This is my son, Phoenix. That's Ziggy is the big gray one.
So this is your kitchen.
Yeah, yes.
Bring a lot of food in, or are you just picking when you need it?
We usually just pick when we need it. These are different apples. So we have at least 3 different varieties of apples that are harvestable right now. And we like to keep one of each closer to the house, so then you'll know when the ones farther in the back are ripe. And then we've got the mandarins going off right now. We've got 2 kinds of plums. This is a red flesh Santa Rosa plum. This is a elephant heart plum. We have our herbal drying rack. This is Tulsi, holy basil.
It's an adaptogenic herb, so it's good for everything, and we use it all year long. So it only grows here in the summer, so we just grow enough for the whole winter until the next season. So
And use it for
mostly tea, just
the health benefit?
yes,
But, like-
for calming the nervous system, relaxing, sleep, anxiety, immune system. It's kind of one of those like it does everything plants.
We make mead. This is one way of preservation, fermentation. This is a hawthorn tincture.
What does that do?
Well, hawthorn has some blood pressure moderating qualities to it. We don't do a lot of canning and that kind of stuff because we do a lot of fresh eating.
I used to do a lot of pickling, sauerkrauts and pickling everything basically, but we kind of go through phases as like what our teenagers like to eat, what our dietary needs, over the last 20 years, it's kind of changed and goes into different phases. Sometimes drying will dehydrate, and sometimes I'll freeze apples cut up because I don't really want to bake right now. It's 90 degrees, but we're surrounded by apples everywhere.
We don't have a lot in the freezer right now because we're just coming into the big harvest season and we like to use everything up. But this is elderberry, last season's elderberry. We usually always freeze it because it's easier to separate the berries from the stems. Now we can make elderberry syrup, which is this great antiviral medicine, but then you can put that syrup on pancakes, right? Like that's a great way to get the kids to eat their elderberry syrup is just on pancakes.
That's reishi, but we have all these. These are all different
Love
things.
it. Yeah.
Where's the elderberry?
Such a-
Maybe we need to make more. Oh, here's the elderberry. This is a elderberry oxmel, so it was mixed with vinegar, but from our elderberries.
Let's see if there are any left in here. Why are there jars, empty jars? Oh yeah, well here you can get so that's the elderberry oxymel, honey, elderberry, apple cider vinegar. Yeah, nice homemade antiviral medicine there for the fam.
We also do a fire cider. We have a large patch of horseradish.
We were looking at
which is a key ingredient in fire cider. Horseradish, garlic, which we grow.
And we always have some kind of medicine going. So here is the St. John's wort. Look at the color of that oil. So it's steeping in olive oil right now, but it turns into a dark blood red colored oil. Here's the last year's St. John's wort. We take these oils grown out here in the garden, and then we infuse them, and then we make these herbal salves. So this salve is for wound healing, cuts, scrapes, burns, skin issues, and then we have another one that is for muscle pain.
So this is something that we do every year. This is a healing salve. It has St. John's wort and plantain. This is all from the garden. Yarrow and calendula, tulsi, which is that plant, and rose, lavender essential oils, and olive oil. The only thing we didn't grow is olive oil, which we could, but we just didn't in this batch. And we use it on our own family, and then we give it as gifts.
Then we have tinctures. So this is a lemon balm tincture. So here we have this little tincture, which can be used for calming. We also do distillation. Here's a lemon balm hydrosol. So we take the leaves and we do a steam distillation. This has 2% essential oil in it. So then it can be used just as a spray. And it's a really nice way to get a little bit of the effect of the plant without it being too strong.
Which does what?
Well, depending on the kind, like lavender, for instance. This here's a lavender hydrosol. So if you burn yourself, lavender is really good to take the pain relief away. So you'd spray with that. Or lavender's a good calming one. So maybe I'll spray some over the kids before they go to bed, just as a way to calm the nerves, help with sleep.
Cool.
Right here is a great example of the way that we combine a lot of function, food and medicine, in a very small space. Not everyone has an acre, but look at how much food and medicine one can grow. So we've got our fig tree that we took by cutting, but we also have a mandarin tree over here. So these two are cohabitating together in the same spot. But then in the understory here, this is lemon balm that is in flower. But lemon balm, which is a very wild plant, it spreads a lot. People get bothered by how much it spreads. But this is one of the best herbal nervine plants. So in the understory of this entire food forest system are hundreds of different kinds of medicinal herbs that we actively use in our home apothecary. Down in here, I took the lid off. This is a laundry to landscape gray water system. Very, very simple. What happens is the water comes out of our washing machine and it goes into these little boxes, which allows us, there's a valve on each one, so it allows us to distribute it along 4 different outlets. And it just comes out and it just infiltrates right here into the ground. So these are all gray water fed. This is elderberry. The irrigation is essentially off in here. So for the past 25 years, I've been feeding all of our kitchen scraps to worms.
You probably have thousands of worms just...
Many, many thousands of them. And they can eat half their body weight in a day. So if I have 10 pounds of worms in here, they can consume 5 pounds of food in a day. It's actually very easy, but there are 2 fundamental maintenance requirements. Tip number 1 is if you're going to feed a worm bin, you always dig a hole first, and then you put your material into the hole, and then you cover it. Second most important tip, whenever I feed a worm bin, I always add a little bit more of the brown on top. So if folks do those 2 activities, you can maintain worms like we have for 2 decades of feeding all of our kitchen scraps here. And it's kind of amazing to think that these small bins can handle that much food. And the way we've done it is we have more than 1 bin. So we'll leave a bin to rest, and then when we want to harvest the castings, and you can see that this is literal gold for the garden or for the farm. Worms have 9 beneficial bacteria in their gizzards, and so as they eat down the food, they inoculate their castings with those beneficial bacteria. Then what we'll often do is we'll make a worm compost tea. So we'll take about usually a 1-to-5 ratio. So we'll take 1 gallon of worm castings, put it in a 5-gallon pot. So we'll take our water, and most of what we want is water soluble in the worm castings. One of our goals in this garden is to make things that are simple and accessible. Yeah. We try not to be too fancy. So as you can see, our worm bin is a very, very simple system. It's just a box. So I try to make everything as simple as possible, try to demystify stuff. And so for instance, there's all kinds of different compost tea systems one can get. Aerated compost teas to make this sort of liquid fertilizer, and they're all very, very valuable. But they're expensive, they require a lot of cleaning and a lot of maintenance, and I find that for most people it's just too much unless you're a professional grower. And so this is the way we do it. Very simple, very old school. You just mix your worm castings into the water, and then we can take it and just apply it. This is a fig tree that we took by cutting. So we just took a little branch, stuck it in the ground, and a few years later we've got this full vibrant fig tree. So now if I want to feed it some of this compost tea, I just do a little root soil soak, and now I've inoculated that soil with beneficial bacteria. I've provided minerals and nutrients that are now accessible for this tree to thrive. We ask the question a lot, how can we be good ancestors? Because all of our ancestors cultivated these foods, selected these foods, bred these foods, and we get the richness of this gift that's been passed to us. So this is a seed-saving garden. So for instance, we have lettuce seed. This is what lettuce seed looks like. Looks very weedy, looks almost like a thistle or some kind of wild kind of weed. And we can break this up a little bit. You can see we have lettuce seed there. We grow what we like, and then often what we'll do is we'll just let it reseed itself. So we'll allow the system to cycle on its own, which means we have less labor because the lettuce, we've had multiple lettuce patches in here that sprout up on their own at the right time of the year when there's moisture, and we've done no work other than allow things to go to seed. Part of this approach is also very much about shifting the seed bank in the soil. So people are often concerned about weeds. Well, what happens when you grow useful crops, food, medicine, habitat, flowers, you allow them to reseed, they become your weeds. So now when I'm weeding a garden bed, oh, it's fennel, it's calendula, it's lettuce. I could either let it stay, maybe I'm having a busy summer and I can't manage it as well. I'm still obtaining a harvest, I'm still obtaining a yield, rather than having my weeds be a lot of undesirable plants. Another good instance of that is this German chamomile. This is another very important medicine crop for us. This is our sleep aid.
So this really is a lot more than a vegetable garden or a food garden. I mean, you're thinking about all of it, sort of from, you know, curing colds to sleeping.
To reducing pain, to harvesting, letting things go to seed and harvesting the seed, which can start more gardens like this. We can give the seed away, or we teach people how to save their seed. Because seed saving is like holding hands with the ancestors and the descendants. The ancestors saved that seed so we could be here to eat this food. And if we don't save that seed, our descendants won't have that. So we're taking the responsibility of that. Talking about seed harvest, seed packets, nature's seed packets are really incredible. So this is columbine. So you can see columbine seed. Really, this is even more special. This is a poppy called a Lawrence poppy. I mean, what a cool seed container. And then look at this. Look at how much seed just in one head. And you can put this, you can eat this, poppy seeds, like you put on a bagel or bread or something like that.
Okay.
Totally edible.
Trying this.
Yeah, go for it.
Regular pop seed.
Yep.
That easy.
That's easy. Look at that. And here's the thing is, so there's your poppy seed harvest, but it comes in this package. And these are pretty cool, but that's not super aesthetic. But if you want the seed, you've got to let the plant go through this cycle. Of course, what we want more than anything are more poppies. So we'll just spread the seeds here. And next year, this will be an even bigger poppy patch.
Because how large is this? Is this a
1 acre.
1 acre? Okay. And can you grow enough? How plentiful can that be for a family?
There are certain things that we're not growing here that are staples, things like olive oil. We're not growing meat here. We don't have dairy animals here.
But produce?
Produce, we could grow all of our produce, easy. For our family, easy. We could be selling our food from here. This is called the pink pearl apple. My son comes and harvests one of these every day. Very delicious, but of course the pink flesh is just a wonder. I've had people who have eaten a pink pearl and it inspired them to plant trees in their garden. It literally led to, now I want to take action and grow my own food because I could grow a pink pearl apple.
So could anyone do this with their backyard?
Anyone could do this.
Grow kind of this much food on, really?
100%. The problem, I'll tell you what the biggest challenge for people is the cultural aesthetic. Obviously, this is a very wild aesthetic. This is kind of the mad scientist garden. For my clients, I don't generally design gardens like this for clients because it's too much. So there'll be less diversity, cleaner spaces, cleaner lines, more hardscaping, and things that people generally want in a landscape, but still they can grow just as much food, have just as much water management function. Even in a high-end landscape, you can achieve all of that function. You just won't have the level of biodiversity that we have here. But I'm okay with having the grapes grow on the pineapple guava a little bit. It's a process, you know, this isn't ideal, but there's still multiple harvests coming out of here.
I don't find this unattractive.
No.
I actually find this more attractive than like a chemical fertilized lawn.
No, so that's what I was saying. It depends on your own aesthetic. Everybody has their aesthetic need.
Yeah.
And so anybody could do this, But you can also do something that has a much higher, what people would consider a high-end aesthetic, and still grow just as much food, catch water, build soil, draw habitat.
Maybe even put a little bit of grass that grows well underneath or something.
100%. You can. We do native grass lawns all the time.
Could you combine a part that is more like, say, traditionally ornamental, like you have roses here? Or...
But I generally like to do that in such a way where our ornamentals are also providing other functions. Rose is an amazing medicinal plant as well, and it's edible. And you can make all kinds of different things with roses, and they're just beautiful too. This is part of our rain catchment system. You can see this is a gauge that tells us how full they are. So there's two 5,000 gallon tanks. They fill together. So these are both around 3,500 gallons full. So we have around 7,000 gallons current right now in these tanks from last winter's storms. So water comes off the roof of the house and it gets pumped into these tanks. These tanks are high in the watershed, high on the land. So we could use gravity to get the water out. If we want to get the water out, we can just use gravity that way, no pumps necessary. So this is great emergency water. We'll use this to run our toilets when the power goes out. We'll just come fill up a bucket because we're dependent on our well. We do have a gas generator, but we don't have it on all the time when the power's out. So we'll just fill buckets with rainwater, bring it into the bathrooms and flush our toilets that way. But also backup irrigation water, backup pond water. If there was a fire, we'd have 10,000 gallons of water we could release. So a lot of benefit, all from the rain.
Yeah. And keeps you really resilient.
Exactly. I mean, of course you need your cultural gathering space too. And being able to make fire, we've been doing hand friction fires as a way to keep that skill set and tradition alive that we find in all of our ancestors. And so we have a lot of potlucks and community ceremonies here. These are components that make living on the land so enjoyable, is to be able to have functional ways to experience being outside.
You use the ashes for anything?
We spread the ashes back into the garden to provide potash and potassium. Right here in this space, we got the fire pit, and then we have a multi-grafted cherry tree. We have a dwarf peach tree. We have a mandarin. We have another dwarf peach tree. We have a Meyer lemon. We have a pippin apple. We have a multi-grafted pluot. We have an apricot. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different fruit trees just around the fire pit. And they all come in at different times. So the cherries, the very first fire, we're always eating cherries at the same time. We have the first fire of the season and we're eating cherries and peaches. So you could just sneak food into every aspect of the landscape. And talk about just growing food anywhere and everywhere. We have these ground cherries here. So these are like those golden berries, but they're a smaller variety, really high in vitamin C, really quite delicious. They will start to reseed themselves, which we want. And we want them to start spreading themselves through here. Surround your house in food and you'll always have something to eat.
That's for sure. I'm not worried about you guys if there's a...
You'll be come knocking on our door if you need to.